Welcome back to Beyond the Headline, everyone. It's a really exciting day to be on the show because I'm here with Joanne Wilson and Susan Solomon, the co-founder and president of the Women's Entrepreneur Festival. Thank you guys so much for being here today.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
I'd love to start out with the real mission of WeFestival, which is women's unique need to connect and be heard. Can you introduce us to the festival and the thriving Slack community in that light?
I think the real mission is it's grown over the past 5 years, going into now our 6th year, is really to connect and be heard, create a community, but more importantly, is to help women become better business people.
And it's for the Slack community. From December to now, it almost seems like a different group
It's exploded.
of women. What's happening there?
I think that people are talking about it. I think that people are becoming aware of this community, and people are sharing and they're hearing it and they're coming in and they're conversing with each other.
It's pretty cool. I mean, if you follow it during the course of the day, it's just like people are posting their ideas, or people are posting, does anyone know someone who can do this? And has anyone seen this before? I mean, there are questions that you could, ask your investor, or, if you're in a shared space, you could walk down the hall to someone who's maybe in sort of the same vertical and ask you. So it's really quite the community. It's cool.
And I think we talked about this off camera, which was the idea that other women are helping. When someone posts, people seem to chime in and say, hey, I can help you with that. Why don't we connect offline? And I think it is similar to having a co-working space, but a lot of these women work by themselves at home, and this is an opportunity to connect during the day.
And I think what's really stood out to me so far is how often people are helping each other. I asked a question in a Slack off actually to you, Joanne, about investing, and I've had numerous women who I have never met before continually send me resources that would be helpful for me. As you move forward, what do you hope the Slack community becomes?
Well, I think it can become certainly bigger than it is now. Like, if you think of us as a startup, you think of this event as our, Susan refers to it as our model home, which I love, is that we're going to move and we're going to do this in LA, we're going to do this in Berlin. So in 2017, we'll have 3 major events. We'll probably have, outlying smaller events around the country. And, we break them down into areas. There's communities that can connect. It's like when you take a class online and you find out that there's 10 people taking a class that live in Istanbul, they can get together and discuss the classwork. So I think we're going to try to move it towards that.
I think the other thing is that we initially started the Slack because in the last 5 years, the community really was on Facebook. And it wasn't really nurtured, it wasn't tended to. And as we all know, Facebook has its needs and its uses, but it's not great for community conversation. You can't see everyone who's on the community, you can't connect one-on-one in the kind of way that Slack allows. And so the initial impetus for doing this was, let's create a real community that's not on Facebook, where people actually can connect. And then the other aspect is, we have limited spots for our actual physical events. The one that's coming up in New York, as well as Joanne just mentioned, LA and Berlin, that will be coming up. Not everyone gets in, but these women still want to connect with other women. And so this gives people an opportunity. Hey, if you didn't get into this, keep rocking it out, keep growing your business, learn from other women. They're there to support you, you're there to support them. And so it's another platform for women can connect if they aren't necessarily going to the event.
And for each of you, just on a personal level, what does WeFestival mean to you?
It's a great question. I mean, I've been doing this from the beginning with, the original co-founder, which was Nancy Heckinger, which really was her idea, because she was frustrated with the lack of gender balance in her classes that particular year at ITP. And so, it's one of those things that after the WeFestival, you walk away, you're like, oh my God, that was amazing. Like, you're just so energized to know that all these women have connected and they're excited and they're moving forward in their businesses and they've made new friends and mentors. I mean, today I did this other event that was actually for angels, separate, but I talked to someone today, she was doing diligence on somebody, and she's like, because of you, not only did I invest in this company, I'm now sitting on the board, which I was thrilled to hear, and I met a woman at that lunch. Her and I are going to go out and raise a fund. So to me, it's like, it's about the connections, is that we're connecting, which I think is great.
I think for me, I clearly came at it from a different perspective. I became as an attendee. So I was an attendee for 4 of the 5 years in the previous. And I met a woman who I ended up coming into her company for a couple years. I was inspired at the last event while I was trying to figure out what my next step. I was completely inspired by the women who were there and what they were doing to start my own thing, which is separate from WeFestival. And also being able to help support Joanne and going this forward. I mean, in my own way, different than Joanne, I've always sort of liked to help others facilitate whatever it is that they're trying to achieve. And so this helps me do that as well. So and our skills are really well married and mapped to each other, so we can take this to a whole other level.
What surprised
And
you?
also, I've known her longer than anyone else.
Pretty much, I've known her for a long time. I'm not going to count the years for you.
And when you embarked on this May of last year, after the last WeFestival, and you weren't sure.
January.
January
Yeah.
of last year.
Yeah.
And you think of where you are now, what are you most proud of?
I mean, the whole thing. I mean, not that it wasn't a business at NYU, because it was a business, obviously. We took in tickets, we had to pay NYU for the facilities, we had, one sponsor, which was Silicon Valley Bank, that allowed us to stream the videos. They were watched in 130 countries. But now, it's a real business. I mean, we have phenomenal sponsors. We have a channel on, 33 voices. We've got Medium. We have a channel that you are putting tons of stuff on. We're putting things on. We have a Twitter handle. We've got a Facebook page. I mean, we're taking this to a whole different level. People are writing about us. So it's in a very, very different spot than it was a year ago.
I mean, I think that, when we first decided to do this together, it was, I sort of dive in like I just do, which is sort of doing a competitive analysis and sort of seeing what was going on there. What had you guys done in the past? What was working? What was not working? And I think that just sort of recrafting the brand to catch up with what's already happening, and I think that's what happens with a lot of companies, it was already there, but the brand was behind. So now the visuals and the physical experience of the event, we think will map to what's already been happening at this event, and I think ultimately, clearly taking the advantage of the power of social media and being able to promote it. We have never did any PR in terms of we'd sort of just question that at the beginning. Should we hire a PR person? Should someone help us? And we realized we don't need to. We have so much going on as far as social media. People have contacted us to do stories. So, I think that the reach and the response, I think, has been what's exciting for me. I don't know if it's a surprise so much, but it's fantastic to see.
And I think something, and this has happened literally in every interview I've done for Connect and Be Heard, people are so excited, not even to go to the festival, but they're asking me what they can do to help. And when we first started, I would email you every time, and I was like, okay, now this is gonna turn into a lot. If you had to just choose one thing that's happened, one outcome from WeFestival, whether this year, whether in the past years, and it was the only outcome that could happen, but it would just feel like everything, all of the efforts were worth it, what would it be?
I think to me, it's just like investing in, entrepreneurs and women to see them move their businesses forward. I mean, that is to me what it's all about. And one of the things that I think is really important, which is why I invest in women, which I posted today and you retweeted, which is, I like to invest in women. I like to invest in minorities because those are the next role models for the next generation. And so I feel like, some of the signs that we have that are going to be at WeFestival that you see are like these adorable girls in Superman costumes. It says, WeFestival 2000,
Class of
25, and so I think it's a movement and I think it's important. And to me, that's what really gets me excited.
I'm glad that you brought up role models because I didn't realize the need for them until I needed one myself. And it's made a tremendous difference. Why do more women need to get out there and tell their stories?
Well, I think in the past, and I think this has to change in the future, and although it is starting to change, and it will certainly change because so many women have been funded over the past 4 or 5 years, is that women that built companies 10, 20, 30, 40 years ago, by the way, there was a part in our history where women couldn't own businesses. So even if they started a business, it was under their husband's name.
They couldn't have their own apartment. They had to get
they had their husband to sign it. I mean, it was ridiculous. So, today, some of those women, for whatever reason, and I think it had to do with what we talked about when we started this festival, is women connect differently.
Women need the support of others. They need validation. They need to know that someone's got their back in a kind of way that I don't know that men do. I mean, I hate to stereotype and sort of put it on, it's not no men, but I think that women need to know that someone has their back. Am I doing this right? Am I going down the right path? And whether that's validation from a friend, a supporter, another woman entrepreneur, or a role model, I think that there's something that, again, women need that sort of connection, whether it's an emotional connection or the validation aspect that helps them move forward. And it frees them to move forward.
Also, women network differently. And I think that is the key here. So, perfect example, I was in Berlin last summer and I spoke at a SoundCloud event. And they did this thing on role models. And 90 women showed up out of 120. And the founders of SoundCloud were like, where did all these women come from? And it's like they're out there. Women go to events that make sense for them. Women show up to parties that make sense for them. And so I think the women of the past, when they become public or they sold their company, they kind of went home. It wasn't they were being called on every day to be the front page of the New York Times when someone wrote an article about something in their vertical. And to me, the importance of this event, one of the things I think is important, is that when you do sell your company, or when you do build a big company, or whatever it may be as a woman, that you become this role model, because you are, whether you like it or not, it is important to stay out there in the public eye. Because if you look at some of these documentaries, like I'm involved with this one, Dream Girl, and I've seen other clips.
Dream Girl,
of other ones, is that the young girls are like, well, we're the role models. So if you are young, or it's even like having a black president, you've got all these young African Americans in this country that are looking at that job and saying, I can be president too.
I think it even goes back to the home, okay? When your mom works, Christine and I, we're talking about a friend of mine, we're talking about her daughter. Her daughter, Christine travels all the time. Her daughter thinks mommy goes on business trips. There's no question whether mommy works or not. That's part of her life. It's ingrained in her, and she's going to continue on thinking that she's going to be a working person too, and she's going to go on business trips, and she's going to go to the office every day. We didn't grow up with that. Not everyone in our generation grew up with a mom. And clearly that doesn't happen today, I guess, also, but I think there's more working women today than there certainly were 30 years ago.
And when you focus on that aspect of it, of having someone to look up to, and of course the media plays a role in that, you had a great, I can't remember if it was in a post or an interview, that supporting women and sharing their stories is good for business.
Mm-hmm.
It's not altruism.
Yeah.
How do you think we should shape these stories in the media to showcase women as this is a great entrepreneurial story, not this is a story about a woman?
Well, there was an article yesterday, and I'm totally with you. It's not these are the entrepreneurs, it's always the entrepreneur women versus the entrepreneur men.
Well, it's the same question of affirmative action. At what point?
Right. But there was an article yesterday, one of the founders I'm invested in sent, it was in New York AM, and it was a cover of, the classic, We Can Do It. And it said, women entrepreneurs take over New York. And he scanned the article and sent it to me. And I thought, well, that's really great. Because, we had this conversation with New York Magazine, who's one of our media sponsors. And I was like, I remember years ago, there was an article in New York Magazine about the next entrepreneurs. And it was literally all these men in Silicon Valley. And it's just like, wow, you didn't look very hard in New York. And there's tons of women out there. So I do think, you have to make a concerted effort to show diversity in all of these businesses and not using the women versus the men.
I mean, I think the hope is if we continue to call out, publicize, promote women entrepreneurs, one day they won't be called women entrepreneurs, they'll be called entrepreneurs. You don't say a man entrepreneur, I don't know how you would say that.
A
men's entrepreneurs festival, like it's not necessary. So one day, again, that won't necessarily be needed, and it won't be called out because it's clearly that women are entrepreneurs and they're part of the community in any kind of way. I don't know how long that'll take, but hopefully we're helping to get to that point.
Right, where there's complete gender equality in all these companies.
For each of you, if there was one misconception about women entrepreneurs that you could debunk, what would it be?
Well, they're better business people.
Actually, it's proven based on statistics.
Yeah,
I mean,
the
the
ROI,
data seems to
totally.
be there.
Right, it's proven that you have, women who are leading, women that are on boards, gender equality in businesses. They end up becoming better, profitable, more profitable businesses.
Well, over the weekend we saw Michael Moore's new movie, which,
He's super left.
okay, if you're lefties like we are, you'll appreciate it. If you're not, don't go see it. But they talked about Iceland, when there was the economic meltdown in 2008.
That was great. When they were deciding to be a hedge fund as a country.
Correct. So the banks that failed were the men's. The only bank that survived was run by women. And the reason it survived is they said that we are not going to invest in anything like this derivatives that they don't understand. These guys, here in the States as well, kept investing in these kinds of packages that no one really understood how they worked. And the women didn't. They're the only banks to survive. And they were super interesting just to see a clip of them.
And
They were
only
powerful, smart women who, again, they were the only bank that was left standing.
And the only ones that didn't go to jail.
Right, well, there's that too. Yes.
What is it about the way women run businesses that's different?
Well, I think it's a combination of many things. I think women love to be part of teams. They're great leaders. And by the way, it could be innate, they,
nurturing
it's the total nurturing aspect. And they listen, and they're open, and they want their teams to be happy, and they're very driven to success. And if it takes them an extra year to get there, they're okay with that. They're only competing against themselves versus everything else around them.
I do think though, and Joanne clearly has far more expertise and experience dealing with these companies, so has a better take on this, but just from my own perspective, I think women don't promote themselves and sort of, espouse their skill sets in the same kind of way that men do.
Sure.
Look at me, vote for me for MVP. Man has no problem saying that. Women, we've been doing the applications for WeFestival. We missed a couple that should have gotten in. I've gotten some notes, and a woman wrote me, and she says, "I'm so sorry I didn't get in. Can you give me feedback as to why I didn't get in?" And I looked at her review and I realized she should have been let in. And I wrote her back and I said, "You're in." And she wrote back, "I hope that's a real yes." And I thought, I wrote back and I said, "It's a real yes." I don't think a man would have asked.
No.
Take yes for the yes and move on. She just wanted, "Are you sure? Are you sure you want to let me in?" And there's like a kind of an emotional I don't know if it's an insecurity, you wanted to make sure. I don't think that men do that as much in business. They might do it in their personal lives. I just don't see that they do that kind of thing in business.
They might feel it internally, but they don't show it.
Right?
I think externally, we've all read this, that, for example, when women go to pitch, they aren't as assertive, and they're not really running the conversation, saying, "Oh, let me go check on this," or "I'm not sure." Do women need to be more assertive?
Or apologize for what's not right.
Yeah, it's a funny thing. I don't know if it's about not necessarily being assertive as it is selling yourself and reading the room, and and to pause and to listen and stop babbling and wanting people to like you and like what you're doing on the other side. And, as I say to people when they pitch, people will of course rip your business apart in order to find the holes, but you know your business better than anyone else. And so, and if someone isn't great on the other side, you don't want to be in business with them anyway.
Is that a strength thing? Is that a,
Well, I think there's certainly
that power aspect?
Listen, if you're selling, if you run a business and you need to raise money, I think in any aspect of anything that you do, you have to sell yourself. I don't care what job you
Totally
have.
agree.
The most successful people in life are great salespeople. Artists to entrepreneurs.
Any position you're in a company, you're in the marketing department, you're in biz dev, you're in tech.
Mm-hmm.
If you can't figure out how to sell what you're doing and be able to articulate that clearly.
Right, no one gets excited. But I have seen women who, of course, at the beginning, and then, they raise some money and the business starts growing, and then they raise some more money and the business starts growing, and then the business is like big, and they're raising big money, and their entire body language and the way they talk to someone completely transforms. And also, the one thing which is interesting, particularly in the fundraising mode for women, women are really honest.
Too honest.
Too honest. So they'll say, yeah, I'm only going to do $2.125 million this year. You know, because that's what I really think we're going to do. You know, whereas, you know, I've seen men come and pitch me like, no, we'll totally $5 million this year, not even an issue. And, you know, it's up to, of course, the VCs to do the business, the work, and do the analytics and decide, is there an opportunity here? How big is the marketplace? And, you know, like, I have a business company, ends up the person that was running sales was kind of in the wrong job, which is fine. He's fabulous. We moved him to another position, and this was after the big close, big money. And, you know, she called me, she's like, oh my God, you know, when they, and this is not the only person who's done this, another woman who said, we're not going to do our numbers this year, and that's what we raise money around. Or, you know, we took the money in and now he's not the salesperson, what do you think? And I said, all
business.
4 women. I was like, they didn't invest in those people. They didn't invest in that. They did their homework. They invested in you, and they invested in a large opportunity. If you don't think you're going to make your numbers now by $250,000, just say what it is in the board meeting. Nobody gives a shit. You'll figure it out going forward. And I think that is something that, you know, women are super authentic, and they're very honest about their businesses. And it wouldn't be so bad to be a little more bold. Because if you're pitching against everybody, 90% of the people that are like, whoa! And then you come in and you're super honest, they're like, oh, this is small business.
I think it's an attitude more than anything.
Yeah, it's an attitude too, but, you know, I think it's, you know, women are very, they cross their T's and they dot their I's, which is a good thing and a bad thing.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because I've noticed even in myself, before presenting something to anyone, I read it 6 or 7 times versus just sending it over, even if it's a rough draft. Is that something you just have to let go of?
I think at one point, if you're so busy, you have no choice but to let go of
All
it.
right, I think it all depends on what the draft is for and who it's being sent to. I think when you're a business, to send out, you know, emails or documents that, you know, don't have finished sentences or periods or grammar is clearly not a great thing.
Right, exactly.
So you know, it all depends on the context. I think ultimately everything's all about the context.
And how do you figure out that context?
I think as you get older and you understand, you know, what your limitations are and who you're talking to, and I mean, you know.
What your goal is of the
Yeah.
of that ultimate, you know, task that you're doing and the audience that you're communicating with, whether it's a person or a group or what the purpose is of, you know, again, we're talking in amorphous sort of terms, but I do think Joanne's right. I think there's a certain sense of, you know, age, and you have a experience going, I don't need to focus on that as much. This is far more important based on what I'm trying to achieve.
Yeah.
Have there been any topics or aspects of WeFestival thus far that you guys haven't gotten to highlight?
I don't think so. I think, you know.
What do you think? Well, so I just like an example.
An example may be something that happened to a member in the community, something that you guys are excited about in the future, just a personal dream you have for WeFestival?
No, I mean, I look at this as a startup. You know, even though we've been at it for 5 years or 6 years, we learned a lot from January till now, and we're going to get better at this. And a lot of the ideas and concepts we have are great, and we're continuing to talk about them so that we will become, in 2017, a very different business with a huge community by then. Obviously 3 other cities, but also the Slack channel and all the other things we hope to do. But like businesses, you really, it's like when people show me a deck and they're like, well, we're going to exit in 5 years. It's like, you haven't even started. Like, why are you talking about an exit? And I think that as our business grows, things will reveal itself to us that we'll be like, this is exactly makes sense. Or this, no.
It's like, right, like any startup, we have a path. We have ideas about things that we can do to grow the business, grow the opportunities, not just additional cities, not just Slack, other resources that we can give to women. Women need, all entrepreneurs do, and there's tons of outlets for that. But you go to the communities that you trust, and we believe that we're a trusted community. We already know that from 5 years. People keep wanting to come back because they love coming to this event because they trust the other women at it. So being a trusted sort of resource, we want to continue to grow that out through content, through other cities, through other channels. but something's going to come up tomorrow that we hadn't thought of, or we're going to meet someone that we had never met before who's doing something that we're like, that's really cool. We want in on that. Here's another angle for it. So it's like any startup, actually any company, you have to have a path, but you have to be open to the bumps that come along and the opportunities that come along and figure out which ones you want to take advantage of.
Yeah, totally.
So then for right now, if you could each choose one word to describe WeFestival, what would it be?
Community.
Yeah, I just don't think really. To me, it's thrilling. I'm really excited about it. It's amazing. It's just amazing to hear from all these women and see them all connect. And, but it's community.
I think that when I get, Joanne's clearly gotten tons of emails through the years. I've been getting tons of emails, certainly in the last years I've been involved. These women want to be a part of this. With the application notices that just went out, got a lot of notifications from people who are so sad and so disappointed that they can't come, and you can feel it. I feel for them. I get it. And there's a part of it, while we were reading the applications, we're like, you want to let everyone in because you're like, this could change their whole trajectory of their business and their lives, and yet we have the power to say yes or no
because we only have limited
space. But I think we take that responsibility seriously because we want to make sure that the people who do come in, we can help. Because we can't help everyone. We can't help the small business owner who doesn't want to scale necessarily. We are about helping companies who are building, growing, scaling companies to be larger. And that's what the entrepreneurs that we are hoping to help.
Perfect. Thank you guys so much for being here today.
Thanks for having us.